77.
My name is Revzech, and I'm the first vice president of the League of Women Voters. We have a vacancy in voter service, so I'm just filling in, but I want to thank our former voter service chair, cowhn, for her help in putting tonight's proceedings together. Thank you for coming tonight. We do have a printed agenda and guidelines for how the forum will be run. Our moderator will go through that. But first we'll have Herb Green, our former president, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So please stand if you are able.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which we stand,
One nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Herb has requested that we all be reminded of the First Amendment, so I'll read what Herb has given me and swears is the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. So again, we'll be starting with the 22nd District Forum, and at 7:30 we'll have a changeover to the local municipal mayoral race. And let's see, one other thing is, okay, so let me introduce to you our moderator for the evening. It is Louise Ballard, and she is sent to us from the state. According to state league rules, we have to have a neutral moderator, so we call the state, and the state sends us a moderator. So I'll turn over the proceedings to Louise, and she will guide the evening's agenda. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me this evening to be your moderator. I would like to first read you the ground rules for the audience and for the candidates. Questions will be accepted up to 650 for the assembly candidates and 750 for the mayoral candidate. Because we are interested in issues rather than in personalities, questions should be confined to issues. There will be no heckling of any candidate. If you do so, you will be asked to leave your choice in the cafeteria. All questions of an abusive or personal nature will be eliminated. Questions should be submitted in writing on an index card available from the ushers. State your questions as briefly as possible. Please print legibly. You may address your questions to a specific candidate or generally to all candidates. Please specify. Once the program has begun, please remain seated. Raise your hand if you need an index card or if you wish to turn in a question. An usher will come to your seat. All decisions made by the moderator are final. Ground rules for the candidates. The assembly forum will begin properly now at 6:30 with the mayoral forum starting at 7:30. There will be no dissemination of campaign literature or campaign buttons anywhere on the school grounds or in the building. All candidates will remain seated while making the opening statement, answering questions, and making their closing statement. Please observe the wasn't here, and he was supposed to be first, so we're going to be right on going. And Mrs. Linda Stender is the first to give her opening statement. She has 1.5 minutes, and she'll be ready.
Thank you very much, and good evening to all of you. Thank you all for coming out tonight, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for running this forum, and to my opponents for also participating tonight. It's been an honor and privilege to serve the people of the 22nd District and to work for all of the residents here. And I'm here tonight to talk about the issues and to ask for your vote for another 2 years. My service to the people of the 22nd District has been motivated by my belief in God and family and community. We need competent governance so that the services that we need and want are delivered to our residents. New Jersey, like every state in the Union, has suffered from a failed Bush administration for the last 8 years, which has left us in the worst economic decline since the Great Depression. These tough times have required tough decisions. And the facts are that Assemblyman Green and I, along with Governor Corzine, have cut spending, reduced the size of government, increased property tax relief, and boosted school aid. Decisions about spending your hard-earned tax dollars were made based on our values and priorities for improving the building blocks of society, improving education, healthcare, and our economy. My priorities, my values have been to make sure that we've increased funding to education. My priorities and values have been to make sure that we've increased property tax relief. We put a cap on local spending. We've increased the funding for health care, voting to expand family care. I thank you. I see I'm out of time.
Thank you. Next person is Mr. Bastine.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this event. Thank you to Emerson School for hosting it as well. This is a beautiful facility, and I hope that there's a lot of learning that takes place in this building. The choice that we have to make this year is very clear in my mind. The state of New Jersey is on the precipice of bankruptcy. We have the highest property taxes in the country. We're the 4th highest exodus state in the country, not just the region. If we just talk about the region, we've got the highest unemployment rate. We've got the worst numbers collectively in this country. Our opponents would love to talk about George Bush, but George Bush is not running for anything. He hasn't been running for anything, and frankly, the current incumbents in Trenton have created this mess, not George Bush. Our opponents have voted to increase taxes $6.5 billion and $8.5 billion, respectively. They have rubber-stamped everything that John Corzine has done, and when I hear that they've decreased the size of government, I'm amazed that anyone could truly believe that. When you see independent reports that they've actually increased 50,000 state employees since Corzine took office. I look forward to discussing the issues tonight, and I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Martin Marks.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. As Bo said, New Jersey is looking into the abyss. And now we hear once again that it's all George Bush's fault. Now, I don't deny that the prevailing global recession that we're experiencing is hitting right home here in New Jersey. But the fact of the matter is, New Jersey has been rated as the worst tax climate in the nation. We have the highest property taxes in the nation. Ms. Stender and Mr. Green did not cut spending, they've increased it. They have not cut taxes, they have increased it. We are the highest exodus, 4th highest exodus state. We have lost 500,000 residents over the last 8 years since the Democrats have controlled our state. Ladies and gentlemen, I know there are many partisans in the room. Some of you would never think of voting for a Democrat. Some of you would never think of voting for a Republican. We cannot look at things that way this year. I fear for this state. If we continue to hurtle down the road we have hurtled down for the last 8 years, this state will go into bankruptcy. And I hazard to think what will happen to us then. take a look in the mirror. Because after all, it is us who keep sending the same people back to Trenton year after year after year. And quite frankly, if we do that again this year, we will deserve exactly what we get.
Thank you. We have an opening statements. Mr. Green?
Good evening. I apologize for being late, but Governor Elliott, we're lending basically with the students, and now we're getting some money for preschool, which we were not getting before. I was hoping tonight that we can talk about the future of the state of New Jersey. This is my 9th term. My first 2 years under the Whitman administration, it was unbelievable how they were just giving money away. And I watched that for 8 years. My opponents might not want to understand the politics of New Jersey, but Republicans were in control in the 90s. When George Gordon became governor, he looked at it from a business point of view. I'm not going to sit here and continuously allow anyone to blame the governor for the mess that George Bush has left this country in. It starts there. No matter how you want to look at it, whether it's California, New York, Pennsylvania, you name it, there's not a state in this nation that does not have a problem. But what our governor did was make sure that our kids were able to get a good education. Today, you can look at this building here. If it wasn't a Democrat, it would not be.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you for your opening statements, and we're going to begin now with the written questions from the floor. First question is Debbie. Do you feel preschool is an important investment in our children's future, or do you agree with Chris Christie that it is a waste of money? And we can begin with Mr. Bastine.
I'm not sure where the notion comes from that Chris Christie is against educating our kids. One of the things that I've seen so far in this campaign is some very creative creation as far as what people believe and what they think. As far as what I believe, I do believe that school is important. I believe that because what I've seen in a lot of communities is that when kids don't have the resources that they need from their home life, when kids don't have parents that are involved, it's society's responsibility to make sure that they get the tools that they need to start school. If they don't have the tools that they need to start school, they end up falling behind. And statistically, those kids that fall behind are the ones that end up dropping out. I think personally, the cost of educating our kids starting with preschool is a far greater value than educating our kids or imprisoning our kids when they get older. Thank you very much.
Thank you. In case I didn't know you. Mark?
I certainly believe that early preschool education is valuable and worthwhile. There are many programs and initiatives in this state that are valuable and worthwhile. I got to tell you, I believe my Democratic friends, in all likelihood, they feel they have the best of intentions. However, there is a major disconnect. And the question is, where do we pay for all these wonderful programs that we would like to provide for our citizens, whether they be preschool, whether they be in elementary school, high school, our senior citizens, or anywhere in between? We have an $8 billion structural deficit in this state. We have tripled our debt in the last 4 or 5 years. Our taxes are going through the roof. There is no end in sight. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to need to make some very difficult decisions in the coming years about some of the programs we spend money on. Some of them will hurt. It's time to be realistic about it.
Thank you. Ms. Linder?
Chris Christie did call it babysitting, so that's where everybody gets the idea that we don't support this program. And while my opponents may say that they support early childhood education, you can't have it both ways when you vote against the budget that we cut funding for that, when we know that the investment in early childhood education has measurable, quantifiable results that make sure that our kids get a good start and get a good education. In fact, my opponents continue to misrepresent and to misstate the facts because they are wrong about the budget. The budget did decrease. It decreased by $4 billion this year. It decreased the year before. In fact, it was lower than it was the first year that Corzine came into government. And in fact, there are 7,000 jobs less. I support early childhood education. I supported this budget that my opponents would have voted against and would have eliminated if they had been there.
You know, unfortunately, I was hoping that we could have taken this all around our district rather than just come here in Plainfield and have two individuals lie in our face. If they had it their way, they would cut anything that would help urban communities. They never answered that question. And I'm going tonight, I'm not going to just sit back and allow them to circumvent questions as asked. Yes or no? Would you cut it? Yes, they would. That's the way it operates in Trenton. Just this week alone, just the other day, one of our opponents had nerve to say Board of Education. If some of the criminal activities would stop, maybe we can do something to educate our children. Well, tonight, gentlemen, I'm tired of you telling me that the city of Plainfield is a bunch of criminals. If you have facts, prove. Take it to Christie. Christie has looked at Plainfield up and down. He has found nothing wrong whatsoever. But guess what? If you go to Scotch Plains and you talk about taxes, you have raised taxes, and your kids also benefit from state dollars because some of your kids have the same problems in City Plainfield.
Thank you. Question number 2 to all. What do you believe is the most important issue for the 22nd District? And I will begin with Mrs. Stender.
The issues for 22nd District are the issues that we face throughout the state. As I said in my opening remarks, how are we going to continue to provide services in a cost-efficient, competent way to meet the needs of the people? How are we going to spend your hard-earned tax dollars? And how are we going to move our state forward and make sure that our kids get a good education, that we create new jobs, which our governor has taken steps on. I sponsored legislation that's set up for a new green economy. It's going to create new jobs. That's important. And how are we going to make sure that health care gets provided? Those are the issues, and making sure that we continue to cut the cost of government so that people can afford to live here, which is why I've always supported shared services and consolidation of efforts. And while we've taken steps at the state to make those areas easier for towns to share and stretch their tax dollars.
As Chairman House of Local Government, I have an opportunity to deal with mayors, councilmen, all over the state. And right now, the 22nd District has no more problems to sell. So we have to become creative. We have to begin to do shared service. Our school system is going to have to sit down with other districts, which I'm confident can happen because I've already set up such meetings. But the bottom line is that we can no longer afford for the Republicans to keep dumping on urban communities. When I talk about dumping, I mean, for example, right now, John Brandon, who used to live in Plainfield, he represents Westville. Rather than build affordable housing in Westville, they build for big companies. So this is a disadvantage the city of Plainfield has had to absorb. 50% of our budget goes towards fire and police protection. But these municipalities don't have such problems. I want to know from Mr. Mark tonight, what have you done for affordable housing? What have you done for needy when they fall on hard times?
Thank you. Mr. Marks?
I'm going to take an opportunity to agree with Assemblywoman Stender. The most important issues of this 22nd District are the issues of the state. But that's where our agreement will depart. She talked about providing cost-efficient and competent budgeting. She and her colleague, Mr. Green, and the Democrats in Trenton over the last 10 years have done neither. It has not been competent and has not been cost efficient, and at times apparently it's even incoherent. Ladies and gentlemen, our state has the highest property taxes in the nation. We have the worst tax climate in the nation. Businesses and residents are leaving in droves. For them to continue to blame George Bush is an outrage. It's almost laughable that so many people weren't hurting in New Jersey. It is because of their policies over the last 8 years that have caused this crisis, and unless we make a change, we will continue down that same road to insolvency. We will lose more residences, lose more businesses, and associated jobs with them. Our unemployment rate will be over 10% before we know it.
Thank you, Mr. Nestle.
I too agree that the number one issue facing the 22nd District is an issue that faces the entire state. But while I've been knocking on doors throughout the district, one theme seems to be very much the recurring theme. And what it is that when people say, why is it that New Jersey can't get beyond this culture of corruption? Why is it that everything seems to cost more and yet we seem to get much less? Why is it that we increase our taxes to the point where we're the highest in the country, and yet we get less and less in return for that money? I tell you what, I think the biggest problem facing this state, and thus the 22nd District, is this culture of corruption that allows conflicts of interest, pay to play, graft, kickbacks, and whatever else you want to call it. Now, our opponents want to look at this issue from a criminal justice standpoint. And if it doesn't rise to the level of a crime, then it's okay. It doesn't matter if the voters are the losers on this thing. I disagree with that because everyone is paying for it. I don't care where you live, what color your skin, what religion you believe in, you're paying for it.
Thank you. Next question. Do you support marriage equality? Mr. Green, I'm going to ask you to begin, but I need you to speak into the mic.
Can you hear me now? One more time, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I do. I want to find out tonight whether my opponents are not going to use President Obama as an excuse, yes or no. Because of the fact, this is what I feel. Everyone is entitled to happiness. Everyone is entitled to whatever they feel in terms of who they want to live with. No one should be able to say anything about this because of that. I think that's a private matter. But I have a serious problem when my opponents go from town to town and go to different churches for them to sign a petition to denounce what I stand for. So as far as I'm concerned, yes, I do. But when you draw the churches into it and make it look like I am doing something wrong, and I have a serious problem with it. But again, I don't want anything about who did this, who did that. I want to find out yes or no from my opponents. Do you support it? Because the way I'm hearing it is that you feel people that feel this way have a sickness, which I feel to be very, very embarrassing. That's what we feel about.
Ms. Zender.
I am clearly on the record of being in support of marriage equality. I will vote for marriage equality when the bill comes to the floor. I consider it a matter of civil rights. We attempted to provide for those rights with civil union legislation, and it did not accomplish the goals of providing equal civil rights. And I want to go back to the issue of taxes again, because my opponent, who speaks so loudly and is so critical of taxes, as a mayor, he raised property taxes 50% when he had a $2 million surplus and spent $500,000 on a miniature golf. It's about fiscal responsibility and balancing budgets. And even his own councilman in the town of Scotch Plains recently in a debate said that it was because of the lack of fiscal responsibility during the prior administration that they were left with a mess that required a new sewer authority.
Thank you. Mr. Marks.
I'd once again like to pay my opponents a compliment. I think they've been very even-handed with those in the heterosexual, bisexual, gay, and transgender community. Mr. Green and Ms. Stender have relentlessly and recklessly raised everyone's taxes without regard to sexual orientation. I think they should be commended upon. I will tell you this. I believe this issue is too important for politicians to decide. And I will say it once again. It is time to put a referendum on the ballot and let the people of New Jersey speak. And I will put it to Mr. Green and Ms. Stender. What are you afraid of? Put the referendum on the ballot and ask the people of New Jersey how they feel about this and let them decide.
Well, this issue has been an important issue for me over this past weekend. After the Garden State Equality Organization endorsed our opponents, I believe it was last Thursday or Friday, I questioned the endorsement because I had never heard anyone in secondhand or firsthand refer to our opponents in such glowing terms. I found it interesting that no one that I spoke with in the gay or lesbian community could ever remember a time when Jerry Green was so adamant in his support for gays and lesbians in the community. I believe that this issue was brought into this race as a red herring, although the issue itself is not. It is a very important issue, and I do believe that everyone deserves to be treated equally and with the same dignity and the same rights that we all enjoy, whether it's their sexual orientation, the color of their skin, their nationality, or their race. We all deserve equal rights. Thank you.
Question number 4. Today, the Nonpartisan Tax Foundation released their annual rankings that showed New Jersey has 7 of 10 highest property tax counties in the nation, including Union County at number 10. What will you do to fix this problem? I'm going to ask Mr. Marks to begin.
I've long been an advocate of a constitutional convention for property tax reform, which would put the decision back into the hands of the people. The politicians in Trenton have not had the backbone, the guts, the heart, or any other part of the anatomy associated with courage to take the issue head on. And while our opponents perhaps have voted for the Constitutional Convention, put it on the ballot. It has been the Democrats in the legislature who have stonewalled and not allowed the people of New Jersey to actually vote on it. It is a disgrace that that has happened. And I won't necessarily blame Linda Stender or Jerry Green on the Constitutional Convention, but it's certainly the Democrat culture down in Trenton that has stopped it. That is the only way, short of a Tea Party tax revolt, that we're going to ever solve this problem. And until we get to that point, we will still see people leaving this state in droves, businesses leaving this state in droves, and jobs chasing after them.
Mrs. Stender?
I am actually a co-sponsor on the Constitutional Convention because I do believe that we need structural reform if we are to solve this problem. Right now, over half of our state budget, in fact, goes to property tax relief. And in fact, we increased the amount of property tax relief especially to our seniors in this year's budget. And more property tax relief has been put into the budget in the last 4 years than were done in the last Republican administration years combined. The other thing I think is important if we are going to solve this problem together is that we are going to have to all agree in our 565 municipalities and 600 plus school districts that we're going to have to do a better job of consolidating and regionalizing services. That's where we can find efficiencies so that we can maintain the level of service that people want and need and depend on in this state.
Mr. Vastine?
Well, as I said before, in my opinion, the central theme in controlling costs and thus controlling taxes is to eliminate the loopholes, eliminate the ability to hold 2 jobs while in elected office or work for a lobbyist firm while in office, conflicts of interest, we can all get a tax rebate, not just the ones that Corzine promised and never delivered on.
Thank you, Mr. Green.
Yes, I would just like to respond real quick to two concerns that were brought to my attention. One, what does taxes have to do with gay marriages? Number two, this is not an issue that I just champion. When issues dealing with gay rights occurred just 2 years ago, I led the fight in the committee. I led the fight on the floor. So this is something that's just not new to me. As far as I'm concerned, New Jersey began to go into the hole with the Whitman administration when they start playing stock market with our dollar in terms of the ability to make investments, which was very, very bad. We happen to be in an area which we call the eastern part of the country, where the Philadelphia market is a good market, New York is a good market in terms of real estate and the kind of money that we make. Yes, we can do more in cutting back. But one thing my opponents fail to talk about is starting on Wall Street where all his friends play games with our dollar bills. Now we're paying the price for it.
Thank you. Question number 5. If you have been in the assembly, how do you explain or take ownership of the property tax crisis in New Jersey? Or the second part of that question is, for those who are not, if you are a first-time candidate, what would you have done differently as a member of the assembly? And I'm going to start with Mr. Vastine.
Well, I'm beginning to sound like a broken record. But the reality is, corruption and pay-to-play cost everyone dearly. Beyond that, I think that the real need in this state is to have a forensic accounting of every dollar that is spent. I think educating our children is extremely important. I have 2 small children of my own. But when I see $100 million being spent in Plainfield for educating kids in Plainfield, and only 40% of the kids, according to the numbers that I've seen, graduate, the money's not being invested wisely. So I think what we need to do is we need to have a forensic accounting of every dollar that is spent in this state. Look where what money is being wasted or where money's not being invested wisely. If a program's not working, let's try a different program. I'm not opposed to an Abbott funding type mechanism. What I'm opposed to is waste and corruption and wasted opportunities.
Mr. Marks.
Before Mr. Green and Ms. Stender jump all over my friend here, Bo, I'm going to try to clarify something for them, and I'll speak slowly. We are not here to disparage the children of this community. They are bright young kids, they are smart, and if given opportunity, they will learn. I'm going to say it one more time. We are not here to disparage the children of this community. However, the school system has failed them. Just this week, we had two employees without credentials, $100,000 salaries each. Money being squandered, and it is not reaching the classroom. Teachers are saying they can't even buy books. You could take that $100 million and send every kid in Plainfield to Wardlaw, for goodness sake. So please don't get on your high horse, Assemblyman Green and Assemblywoman Stender, and say we are disparaging the children of this community. We are not. And if you continue to stick up for the school system that is failing these children, then shame on you. You are complicit in it.
Applause at this time. Thank you. Ms. Stender.
First of all, I think I've said, and I will say again, that in terms of dealing with our property tax issue, I voted for a budget that with falling revenues cut $4 billion out of the budget, that it reduced the amount of employees in the state, but at the same time put half of that money into property tax relief and municipal aid and educational funding, because that's a top priority for me, is education. We have, in fact, the toughest pay-to-play standards in the nation, so that's just a fallacy. That's a rhetoric to keep blaming pay-to-play and waste, fraud, and corruption. It's a clever few words, but it's not they are going to cut. Just like their candidate for governor who says he's going to cut this and cut that, we as people need to know, well, what are your priorities? What are you going to cut? How do you think you're going to balance the budget? Because that's the obligation we have as members of the legislature, is to govern fiscally, responsibly, and to balance the budget.
Ms. Green.
You know, Mr. Marks, I work continuously to support my children, which seems like you and your partner have a problem with. But I have a problem with you saying there's criminal activity. Proved. One of the things that I said all week long, because you brought it to the attention of the public, everyone in New Jersey, that $100 million got to be misused in the wrong way. I disagree. If there's something there that's wrong, then bring it to the public's attention. I'm pretty sure he had brought it to Chris's attention. If he thought there's anything being done is wrong, then as far as I'm concerned, he would have found out. But I'm not going to sit here and have you say things about administration until you can prove. Because as far as I'm concerned, your own administration over in Scotch Plains threw you under the bus. They said, you're the reason why Scotch Plains is having all the problems they have. So maybe you need to be investigated.
Come on now, come on.
And we need to make sure that we are answering the question. And that's for everybody. It's not make it personal, let's answer the question so that people will be able to hear from you exactly what you plan to do. We have a lot of questions about Muhlenberg. Was it Muhlenberg? Muhlenberg Hospital being closed, and what we're going to do about helping to get it open. I mean, there's several different questions. They're talking about reopening it, what can you do, what else is, what about emergency at the hospital over 10 years, and some it says, what have you actually done to help save Muhlenberg? Those people who have been working on it already. So we have several questions concerning Muhlenberg Hospital. So we'd like to know. Muhlenberg.
What's the word?
Muhlenberg Hospital. And we would like to make sure that each person has a chance to answer. So we'll begin with Ms. Bender.
I'm not sure what the question is. One question answered.
Okay. Question is, what do you plan to do about reopening, or can you help reopen Muhlenberg Hospital?
What have you done over there?
What have you done over the past 10 years? There are several questions concerning it. I'm certain that you already know because I read in the paper something about it as well. So I'm certain that you know what we're talking about.
Yes, I certainly do know. I'm very familiar with the issue because, of course, the closing of Muhlenberg Hospital was a tragic and heartbreaking loss for our community. That's one of the reasons that Assemblyman Green and I did spend so much time going to meetings, going to rallies, and making sure that we could secure millions of dollars, which we did do over the last 5 years, to help keep Muhlenberg Hospital open. But the fact of the matter is that while my opponents may not like to hear it, that during the Bush administration, they cut the Medicaid reimbursement rate, and that the hospital collapsed under the cost of uncompensated charity care. Muhlenberg Hospital, in order for us to reopen it, we are going to, first of all, have to have health care that's going to make sure that everybody is insured and that there is coverage for all of our residents. One of the things that we have done at the state is we expanded family care, which has, in fact, covered 100,000 additional children. That's a good place to start, but it's not going to be enough. We have to continue to work with the federally qualified health center to make sure that there is coverage for people here. We have to do a better job of making sure there's transportation, and this is something that Jerry Green has worked very hard on, is to make sure that the Solaris system stands up to its agreement, makes good on its agreement to provide transportation, and at the same time, we're going to have to continue to look for a provider that is willing to come back in and reopen the campus.
Thank you. Hold on one moment. We're going to have a minute and a half because it's two questions.
save Muhlenberg. The other interesting thing that I'd like to point out is that the part of the conditions for closing Muhlenberg was that they create a citizens action group. Amazingly, it was such a high priority for our opponents that they didn't form this group until maybe a week or two before the deadline to form it, which was almost a year after they closed the hospital. The other interesting thing that I think should be brought out is that both of our opponents voted for the budget that cut the money for reimbursement to Muhlenberg. So it's very easy to sit here and say that George Bush, the evildoer up in Washington, closed down Muhlenberg, but in fact, our two opponents sitting right up here on this stage voted for the very budget that eliminated the reimbursement from the state to Muhlenberg. So, what I was saying, and what I've said pretty much to every question as it relates to cost, is that the conflicts of interest in this state, especially by our opponents, is cheating us all. The fact of the matter is, no one tried to do anything. The fact of the matter is, every time there was a deadline, they said, well, we've got a meeting today with a potential buyer. Nonsense. They sat by and watched it close and did nothing.
Why you didn't help?
Thank you. Mr. Marks?
Aside from the failure of leadership statewide when it comes to making this state literally unaffordable for most and causing a mass exodus of residents and businesses, the closing of Muhlenberg Hospital in this community, as it affects surrounding communities, was perhaps the most disheartening failure of leadership that we have seen during both of our opponents' very long political careers, because it hurt so many of us, not only by depriving us of a vital lifeline for health care, but also in wiping out hundreds upon hundreds of much-needed jobs. My running mate, Bo Vastine, said if it was up to him and he was an assemblyman, he would have chained himself to the door of Muhlenberg Hospital so they couldn't close it down. Well, I'll go you one better, Bo. While you were doing that, and if I considered myself the third most powerful man in the assembly, I would have gone into the governor's office and chained myself to his desk until he got something done for us. Because after all, there were other hospitals in this state in trouble, and they stepped to the plate for those hospitals and saved them. Ladies and gentlemen, this was a terrible, terrible tragedy. It was a lack of leadership, and it's time for an admission that there was a lack of leadership. Every once in a while, you got to take a look in the mirror and say, you know something? I was wrong. I missed the boat. I won't do it again. I apologize. We haven't heard that from Jerry Green or the dissenter.
There's nothing to apologize. There's nothing to apologize for. First of all, let me explain to both of you gentlemen. When you talk about chaining yourself to a door, I'm not talking or debating or running against George Wallace. That seems like something that was done in the 60s. This is not the 60s bowl, and this is not Texas, where you feel you can say anything and just get away with it. Number one, I did not make any money whatsoever because I had a relationship with the firm, but I had nothing to do with anything pertaining to Muhlenberg. So let's put that straight, because you're trying to make it sound like I did something illegal. Just as like if I asked you, are you an ex-con? What did you do when you were in Texas? Were you a bad man for Bush? Because it's obvious you want to be like him so bad that it's obvious you come across the way he comes across. So stop twisting it like I've done something incorrectly. We have met with hospitals all over the state of this issue. The speaker had given me an opportunity to deal with this issue because Muhlenberg was so much involved. This starts in Washington, where the insurance company controls hospitals, what kind of service you get, what happens, etc. This does not start in Trenton, because the mayor and I were able to get money to keep the hospital open. Yes, Solaris initially made it very clear. They wanted the hospital for one reason, to close it up so they didn't have no competition. But guess what? Where the hell were the two of you when all this was going on? currently, right now, we're in the process with the mayor of this task force to make sure that does not happen. Because right now, Solaris receives a lot of charity dollars. This is why it's embarrassing to come to a debate and not be able to explain to the public what is really going on. It's an industry that has gotten out of hand. When I say it's gotten out of hand, in terms of even with the ambulance service. If the ambulance comes to your house and they find out you don't have no insurance, they send you to a hospital, basically, that might take you in. So this is a process, the next session that I'm going to be working with, because if Muhlenberg or Solaris, whichever name you want to call it, if they want charity dollars, then they're going to keep those doors open. Because if they don't, trust me, take it to the bank. That might be the next hospital that might be closed. Because the hospital industry in general, and thus Obama has his way, is in dirty trouble in the state of New Jersey. Not just Muhlenberg or Solaris. Even Somerset Regional is having problems. This is something that we have allowed the insurance companies to take over. And this is something, unfortunately, my opponents don't have a clue about. All they want to talk about is corruption. But corruption started when we allowed the insurance company and a level of government that really runs this state. When I say a level of government, I'm talking about the different boards that we have all gone to. They make the decisions, so it makes it easy for the governor or whoever is in charge to say this is the way we're going to go. These are the things we need to stop.
Thank you.
This is the part of government we need to eliminate.
Question number 7. What is your position on the death penalty, and do you think it should be reinstated? Mr. Marks?
Quite frankly, we have not had a death penalty in this state for decades because it was never put to use, because a rather liberal Supreme Court always found an excuse for evil mass murderers intent on destroying our society to let them off the hook. I think it was a mistake to repeal the death penalty in this state. We never allowed it to be a deterrent. And when I see the type of crime that is still prevalent, certainly right here in this community, I know there was someone just apprehended the other day for a cold-blooded murder. And they'll, in all likelihood, if they are convicted, they'll spend some time in jail, and then someone will let them out to do the same again. We need to think about the young people whose lives are snuffed out at a very early age, not given a chance to live. It troubles me deeply that we are light on criminals, not only in this state, but perhaps across the nation. And I think it was a mistake for that death penalty to be repealed. It needs to be used judiciously and not overwhelmingly, but it needs to be used. And if used, it would be a deterrent.
Thank you. Mr. Green?
I think we made the right decision. It's obvious the ones that get the death penalty are the poor individuals. That's why I'm not surprised that Mark and Bo feels that way, because for years, the state of Texas had led the nation in terms of putting people to sleep forever. Very seldom you find someone that has the money and a lawyer, and a lawyer that basically will make sure that they plea bargain so they don't wind up on death row. It's a crime, it's a shame. Until we have someday a fair system in place, then I cannot support a system that shows favoritism. The rich lives and the poor, by the way, they don't stand a chance in life. And this is why, not only with the death penalty, but the system itself. And guess what? Chris Christie still don't like the courts. He would like to have it just the way he likes it. If he don't like it, you got two choices. You go to jail or the death penalty. And that's very, very, very frightening to me.
Mr. Vastine?
Sorry, I didn't forget to tell everyone that I am from Texas. I am in favor of the death penalty with certain conditions. I know that historically, there were a lot of people that were innocent, that were probably put to death. And fortunately, as DNA technology improved, there were people that had been sentenced to death that were exonerated. This issue, for me, comes down to something very basic. I've got a 4-year-old son and a 5-year-old daughter. And when these scumbag pedophiles take these children and they end up in a landfill, they deserve the death penalty, and they deserve no mercy otherwise.
We all want our communities to be safe, and I don't think there's a person here who wouldn't feel as if they would like a person put to death who had murdered somebody that they loved. But the fact of the matter is that the death penalty is not a deterrent to these crimes, and it has not been used judiciously, as my opponent said, that it should be or ought to be or can be or would be. We know that, in fact, that the death penalty has been used nationwide in a way that disproportionately affects the African American community. That's the fact on that. The death penalty in New Jersey, the law that we used to have, in fact, cost taxpayers extraordinary amounts of money. It wasn't working. I voted to repeal that death penalty. It was a decision that I had to give long and hard thought to, but I know that I made the right decision because, in fact, at the same time, we strengthened the law to make sure that people who perpetrate these heinous, horrible crimes will go to jail and will never see the light of day. They will finish their lives out behind bars.
Thank you. Did I get everything? Okay, we're ready for closing statements. Our time is up for question and answers. We have many more, but we will be able to talk to them after. Now we'll begin closing statements in reverse order of the way we began. So we will begin with Mr. Morris. Oh, Mr. Green, I'm sorry. That's right. That's right. Mr. Green. You won't go last, Mr. Green.
Well, I've been reading this information for the last 6 months, so I'm not surprised. It's obvious tonight my opponents never asked none of the questions directly, clearly. The bottom line is people should understand that Plainfield happens to be an urban district and a suburban community. And the bottom line is that I have fought very hard, not only for the building that we have here, to make sure that we get our services. We have been neglected for years because the bottom line is that often every 10 years we get put into a new district. I feel we are accomplishing a whole lot as a community. It's not a part of town that we should be ashamed of. We do more work in the 4th Ward. My opponents, they're not sitting here talking about bringing jobs in. But Christy told me he wanted to bring in more low-income housing. He doesn't talk about the fact that our children, if there's a problem, let's sit down, let's talk about it. Not let's say we're wasting $100 million. When I know the kind of money has gone into the suburban community for the last 20 years, and it really makes me sick. We have 2 major highways that were built 20 years ago, so they don't have to come through Plainfield or our area. We can change this working together as a community. We need to put our difference on the side. I'm not talking to my 2 opponents because it's obvious. One moved out of Plainfield because it's obvious. You know, he had a problem with Plainfield. I'm talking about the people who have stayed here, have gone through the last 40 years of hard times. Our times are ahead of us. Other municipalities are going to have to go through what we're going through. Because Chairman of Housing, guess what? I go just about all over the state. I've gone to Somerset, one of the richest counties in the state, and they're crying about, we can't even live in our county. So just don't say it's just Plainfield. We have a problem. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Mr. Morris.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. You've heard from the candidates tonight. We all have our own points of view. I'm going to give you a point of view perhaps from an independent source. the Courier News. I'm going to read some excerpts from their recent editorial. And it's entitled, Marx and Bastien Should Get a Chance in the 22nd District. The 22nd Legislative District has been ruled by the Democratic incumbents, Green and Stender, in the Assembly for most of this decade. And during their years as a team, all of which have been under the complete Democratic control of the State House, New Jersey has been barreling over a cliff of fiscal irresponsibility. Green and Stender are part of the problem. There's no way around that. Marx and Bastien should get your vote, because that change that everyone talks about and no one achieves has to start somewhere, bit by bit, with candidates offering a fresh voice and at least a hint of reforming spirit. The state has also desperately needs a balance of power and trend, and that means giving every breathing Republican a second look these days. Green and Stender are precisely the types of enabling Democrats who should be weeded out of the Assembly. If the voters of every district decide that the incumbents who should be replaced aren't their legislators, guess what? We'll all end up feeding largely the same group of representatives back into the State House machine to produce the same miserable results we have seen for years. We'd like to see what Marx and Bastien can do if Republicans ever get a voice in Trent again. We already know what we've gotten from years of Green and Stender playing ball with the Democratic leadership, and we don't like it. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't like it either. Paul Bastien doesn't like it either. You should not like it either. Make a change November 3rd.
Einstein said the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. Our opponents, specifically Jerry Green, has talked about everyone else as being at fault for the problems, not only in Plainfield, not only in the 22nd District, and not only in Trenton, but the whole country. Here's the point. Jerry Green has been running Plainfield for the last 20 years. Are you better off than you were 20 years ago? Do you see the city taking advantage of the opportunities as they're presented?
Yes.
Or do you see things getting worse and worse and worse?
No.
You can continue to do the same thing that you've always done. You can vote the party line. You can vote a specific issue. But my friends, here's the thing. If you vote to re-elect Linda Stender and Jerry Green, it will be no one else's fault but your own. When Plainfield and New Jersey and the 22nd District continue its downward spiral to the point of bankruptcy, where they've strip mined the community of all its resources, all of its opportunities, and all of its assets, you'll have no one to blame but yourself. You've got a hard choice to make in some cases, because there are some specific issues that people feel strongly about. But my friends, those issues don't matter for anything if you can't afford to live here. That's where we're headed, and it's up to you to change that course. Thank you very much to the League of Women Voters. Thank you very much to all of you, and to Emerson School for having us.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and for everybody coming out this evening, and to my opponents for participating. I have to say, of course, Marty, the fact that the Courier News endorsed Republican candidates was not a big surprise to me. I can't imagine it was to you either. But what was a surprise to me was that they didn't bother to look at your record, where you raised property taxes as mayor when you had the opportunity, when you had a $2 million surplus, when you spent $500,000 on the miniature golf course, and $4 million for a Taj Mahal facade for your town hall. And where just recently a Republican councilman said that, in fact, it was the lack of fiscal responsibility by the prior administration, meaning yours, which is why Scotch Plains has to not only endure high property taxes, but now has a new sewage authority bill that they just received in the mail. And your running mate, Bo, you keep saying it's waste, fraud, and abuse, but just like your running mate for governor, you have yet to identify what it is you would do to make a fiscally responsible budget and to do the job of a legislator, which is to govern and to provide the services and meet the needs and state your priorities for education, health care, jobs in the economy, and moving our country forward. I thank you for the support that I have received, and that it's been a privilege and honor to to work with Jerry Green, Governor Corzine, and I pledge to you that we will continue to do the job that we have to do of cutting the spending, but making sure that we meet the needs of our kids and fund education, and that we improve health care, and that we bring jobs into this state, and that we move the state forward for building a better future. Thank you very much.
Come forward, please. Because we're going to change the district of Maryland. There's 1 minute for answering the questions. Again, timekeeper will hold up yellow card when you have 30 seconds left, and a red card when it's time for you to stop. You should just complete the sentence. You don't have to stop in the middle of the sentence, but you should complete the sentence. Okay, and then we will go on. All right, now if there's any changes, we'll just let you know in between. Please, no outbursts. Don't clap right now because we want to get as many questions in as possible. Because every time we stop, then it just holds us up a little bit. Okay? Everybody ready? So I'm going to give an opening statement and we're going in this order. Down is number 1, Mayor Briggs Robinson. Mayor Robinson Briggs is number 2. And Mr. Niche is number 3. Close and reverse order. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everybody. And I'm really grateful to be here tonight. And because tonight we have a lot to be happy about. Some of you may recognize me as one of the strategists that has been fighting to save Muhlenberg Hospital. And I'm happy to say that we have made very good progress down that line. Now, I'm not here as a single-issue candidate just to talk about Muhlenberg, but Muhlenberg is symbolic of a bigger problem. What you don't value, what you don't protect, will be taken from you. Now, there is a myth that in minority communities, the threat comes from dysfunction. I'd like to tell you that the true threat is excellence. We didn't lose Muhlenberg Hospital because it was a bad institution that had bad equipment, bad staff, bad doctors giving bad care. We lost Muhlen Hospital because it was a richly endowed old hospital with top-of-the-level equipment, highly skilled doctors, and recognized by Johns Hopkins as the leading cardiac stroke program in the state of New Jersey. None were second to it anywhere. Now, if you had a stroke in Plainfield 10 years ago, there was no better place for you to be. If one of you has a stroke in this room here tonight, I doubt if the outcome will be nearly as positive. Now,
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. To the League of Women Voters, Assemblyman Green, Assemblywoman Stender, Mayor Mitchell, Superintendent Gallen, all cabinet members who are here, and employees who are here, all the candidates, all of the attendees, again, good evening. It's It's a pleasure to be with you, and I want you to know that Plainfield has lots to be proud of. For instance, just like in 2005, for the community of Plainfield, I put together real priorities and my administration provided real results. In 2005, and I still have the paper, Sunday, June 5th, 2005, to my family, too. Hi, everybody. It said that my major campaign plea, what I built my campaign on, was safety and security. And I agree with the Courier News on that particular venue. And then, in March of 2009, the caption in the same paper was Plainfield Police Plan, Getting the Job Done. And that's because from 2005, when I was campaigning, to now, we have gone down tremendously in all areas of crime. We've also done some economic development and redevelopment. We're building in Plainfield. We're building on North Avenue, Gavin Place, Front Street. We built that brand new Senior Citizen Center and Veterans Meeting Space. We're doing other things, other achievements, tree maintenance and stump cutting in all 4 wards, sports activities for the youth, paving and milling, redesigning and constructing spaces, recreational spaces, more inspections. Muhlenberg is a sensitive issue for us all, and this administration is working hard to identify some buyers, and I will tell you the names of the buyers in the next question. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I welcome you all here, whether you have a title or not. I thank the League of Women Voters for arranging this forum. I'm very happy to participate, and thank everybody for coming out. Just to let you know a little bit about me real quickly, I am a have been a Plainfield resident for 23 years. I retired after 32 years in the pharmaceutical industry as a mid-level manager and scientist. And I decided that it's time to do something now that I have some free time to give back to the community. And what actually really inspired me to run for mayor was the lack of success in many areas of this present administration. And a friend of mine, a good friend and supporter, Bob Darden, a long-time Plainfield resident, called me over to his house one day and he showed me a list of what he called bumps in the road for the present administration. And I looked at the list, and it was 3 pages long. I said, Bob, you gotta be kidding. But we sat down and we looked at all of them carefully. He had press clippings to support most of them, just as the mayor has press clippings here, to support what she says. We whittled it down a little bit, to be fair, but there are 40 different separate issues of where the administration has failed, and I want to do something to change that.
Thank you. We'll begin our questions now. First question. If you could do just one thing to improve life in the city, what would it be? And we will begin with Mayor Briggs. Robert Briggs.
If I could do one thing to improve
Life in the city.
life in the city, well, there are many things that we can work on, that we are continuing to work on. But I'll tell you, first and foremost, the thing that comes to my mind after safety and security really is restoring Muhlenberg as a full-service acute care facility, because not just for the residents in the city of Plainfield, but for surrounding communities as well. That's why my administration, and working with our assembly members, we have been vigilant in trying to identify a potential buyer. We've met with many potential buyers. Just last week, we met with groups including Mr. Patel and Mr. Gentenzia. Previously, we had had several meetings with the state of New Jersey as well as members of DVR Healthcare. So unlike what some may suggest, we have been working very hard. You all know that we don't own Muhlenberg and we don't manage Muhlenberg, but we're trying very hard to get that back in place. So that would be one of the items that I would do to make an improvement in our quality of life. Thank you.
Mr.
Yes, as we've heard over and over again during the previous part of the forum, the biggest issue on the minds of people in New Jersey, and also the biggest issue on the minds of Plainfield is this high taxes. I know because I've gone around and talked to hundreds and hundreds of people from all parts of the city. My main idea for correcting this is to bring in this economic development in terms of light industry, service industry, firms that can locate within Plainfield, greatly expand our tax base to relieve the pressure on the homeowners, and at the same time create jobs, which we definitely need here in Plainfield. So economic development is my main goal.
Thank you. Ms. Dow?
Well, anybody who knows me knows that I'm definitely not really a politician. And so if I could do just one thing, it would be that I could be more successful at all the things I've already tried to do. I spent the entire summer hunting down people with new medical patents and trying to convince them that you want to manufacture in Plainfield, New Jersey. And all I could see was the people going and opening up search engines and then asking me, what about the crime? And we have to start putting out some good news. Now, maybe we can't stop some of the negative things, but we can certainly change the percentage of the mix. If I become mayor of Plainfield, I'll work very hard to make sure our citizens can work with me to try to promote a much better image of our city. I think we have a lot of seniors who can make a real positive contribution to the daily business of the city. A lot of us need just to be included. Thank you.
Thank you. There are over 700 homes in foreclosure in and around Plainfield today. What do you propose to help Plainfield residents stay in their homes? Ms. Dow?
Oh, well, whether you know it or not, they've moved the paper around so much on these mortgages that if you challenge it, they can't prove that they're holding a note on your house. So I would inform our citizens that you should not leave your home, not abandon your property, continue to cut your grass, continue to keep your utilities on, and try to, let's see if we can negotiate a rental agreement until we can get you refinanced. But if nobody in the bank wants to cooperate with you, I think we get a couple legal sharks down here, and we teach our people how to hold off the banks. They cannot prove they own anything. They packaged and repackaged everything to the point that it's all in the vapor. So what happens a lot in life, you get what you're willing to fight for. And we need to put a little bit more fight in this community. Thank you.
Mayor Robertson, next.
Well, the city of Plainfield has been pretty proactive with regard to properties that are facing foreclosure. One of the things that we've done thus far is that we had a property house tour, whereas we partnered with local realtors as well as a bus company here in the city of Plainfield, Amarin Porterfield. They helped us out with getting a trolley car. We invited potential buyers to come into the city of Plainfield to be given a tour of available properties, vacant properties, or properties near foreclosure that people want to sell. And with the idea that maybe they would buy some of the houses. And some of the houses did sell. So we do have some new neighbors in the city of Plainfield. We've also partnered with the Union County Foreclosure Task Force and initiated one in Plainfield. And we brought some dollars here for workshops to teach people how to maintain their mortgages. We are also doing workshops to teach folks about how to speak with the bankers, because mortgage companies are not in the business of owning real estate. They really just need to be able to work with folks. So we're in a recession, but there are lots of things that we can do, and we're working hard for all the residents of Plainfield. Thank you.
Yes, I feel very, very sad for the people who have lost their homes through foreclosure, and there are a lot more people that are facing it today in Plainfield. What the city needs to do is really organize a forum for bringing in experts from outside of Plainfield, from outside of Union County, from the state, to inform the people who are facing foreclosure what their rights are, what their options are, and also to follow up and make sure that these people follow the best course. Legal advice is always a good thing, but it's not inexpensive. However, there is the Legal Aid Society, and I would advise people to make use of that resource if they could. That is education of people facing foreclosure.
Thank you. Next question. How will you clean up downtown and draw new stores to Plainfield? Clean up downtown and draw new stores. Is that, isn't it?
Well, I think downtown Plainfield is looking pretty good, in my estimation. I've been here for 23 years. When I arrived here, downtown was nearly deserted. You didn't see any people on the streets, especially after business hours. We now have a Latin American community that moved into town and opened a lot of businesses. I would support them in any way I could. In terms of cleaning up downtown, some code enforcement needs to be done to spiffy up the downtown. I think it would be very important to one particular area, the North Avenue Historic District, is unfortunately very unsightly right now, and it gives a bad image of our community. I think we need to give a good image of our community, get people from outside Plainfield to come in here and spend their money.
Thank you. Ms. Down.
Well, I really like downtown Plainfield, and as got posted on one of the blogs, I have some favorite places down there. But I have the unfortunate discovery that all of our parking meters are battery operated, and everybody knows the clocks when the battery gets weak. So I got a $35 ticket a half hour after I put 2 hours on the meter. Now, I don't know when we went from mechanical meters to digital that are battery operated, but that's a whole lot of meters, a whole lot of batteries, a whole lot of maintenance, and I don't know if you have to check them before you ticket people. So I don't want to park downtown right now because I'm thinking I'm going to get a $35 ticket, which could cost me my license if I don't pay it. So what we need to do is to make sure people get treated fairly. Once people get cheated, they get angry. They tell all their friends, and they don't come back. I suggest that we do something about the parking situation so people don't have to worry that if they park downtown, they're going to be paying a $35 ticket that they don't think is fair. Thank you.
Mayor Briggs.
Yes. Thank you. With regard to downtown, downtown is looking really good. And that's basically due to a collaborative effort called the Plainfield Beautification Campaign. And that's whereas Public Works and PMUA and other organizations have come together to help not only clean up downtown Plainfield to make it look more beautiful for all of us, but also other areas in the city of Plainfield where there had been some illegal dumping. For instance, the cemetery that's on Park Avenue, on Plainfield Avenue, excuse me, that cemetery gets cleaned regularly, and the city doesn't own it, but we go out and we clean it. And the reason why we do that, that's the final resting place, and people should be more respectful. But we found mattresses, refrigerators, stoves, all kinds of things back there. So we're doing a great job in cleaning up Plainfield. With regard to bringing businesses here, we're doing that. As a matter of fact, there's already been a site plan approval for 3 mixed-use projects on North Avenue near the train station, and ongoing construction of a public entertainment plaza on Gavin Place, which will generate added revenue and bring in new businesses. Those projects have strip malls attached, as well as, I said, the entertainment plaza and other good things that will be good features for the city of Plainfield. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. What do you plan to do to make sure that the city maintains financial accountability and stability in light of the rotation of chief financial officers? I will begin with Mayor Robinson.
I knew that question would come up tonight. Came up on Sunday, as a matter of fact, at the last candidates forum. Let me explain to you all that the city of Plainfield, we have been looking for a full-time CFO to come here and work with us on a daily basis. We haven't been able to have someone come in and do that. So what we've been doing to make sure that we don't fall between the gaps, we've been utilizing various people in that position. Now, what we've done recently is we've worked with the state to come up with a plan, and that is to utilize someone who has the proper certification right now, to utilize her services to do the duties of a CFO, and we have a 90-day period of time to do that. We've already posted again another request for folks to bid for that job, and if the 90 days should go by and that position is still unfilled, the state then will give us an extension of another 90 days. So we are doing our due diligence to fill that spot because we do need a CFO, one that's going to be here full-time. Thank you. Oh, and if anyone knows of someone, please send in your resumes. Thank you.
Well, things aren't quite as rosy as the mayor would have you believe. State of New Jersey did have to point out to Plainfield that they were out of compliance with the law for nearly 2 years. And Plainfield's response was, well, we didn't know. The position of Chief Financial Officer is essential to the city. That position needs to be filled as soon as possible. It needs to be filled with a permanent person, and if elected, I will search high and low. It will be on the top of my list to identify a person, regardless of political party, regardless of anything else, a competent person who can get us back in compliance with the law, because we don't need to run a city in an illegal and shameless manner.
Well, all of us know a lot of people are out of work. And maybe 2 years ago it wasn't easy to find one. I bet you it'd be real easy right now. And if I become mayor, what I plan to do is have transparency. I don't think anybody can figure out what to do until we've had a full and complete audit, so we know what we owe people, what we don't owe people. If somebody has been doing something inappropriate with the funds, we need to find that out. And we need to start on a fresh footing. You know, we need to clear everything up, open up the books, and start over. No matter how bad things are, I think we can fix it. We have some of the most intelligent, creative, motivated, gutsy people I've ever known in this town. What I love most about Plainfield is the people. And if you give the people a chance, they will help you. You may not appreciate it all, but they'll help you.
Thank you. Next question. What will you do as mayor in order to push politics to the side and do what is good for the people, all of the people of Plainfield? And that will start with the mayor.
Thank you very much for that question. I have to tell you that, you know what, my position in the city of Plainfield, although I am a Democrat, but I represent all of the people in Plainfield in all 4 wards in all the districts, no matter what the gender, preferences, nationality, whatever it is. I represent everyone, and my goal is to continue to be fair across the board to every resident here in the city of Plainfield. I don't look at one group over another. I don't do things specifically to one area in the city of Plainfield. I represent everyone, and I have proven that with the way that I've governed the city of Plainfield. Thank you.
Mr. Fitzgerald.
Well, I would like to point out that it is my intention to run to be a mayor for 1 term. I'm running as a Republican, but I have no close ties to the Republican Party. In actuality, I have received no funding from outside the city in terms of the Republican Party. I am truly a person who can be impartial. I have no political agenda, no political ambitions. I won't let the possibility of being reelected, because I don't plan to serve for more than 1 term. I won't let that interfere with doing the best for Plainfield. You can judge for yourself how impartial the mayor is based on the well-known political connections that she has maintained for years. So I left that to the voter.
Well, I tend to like most people unless they give me a reason not to. And that doesn't matter what you are, politically, racially, gender, your preference. I really don't care. I like people. And people have a lot of potential. And we've got good people. What we've got to do is try to learn to like each other a little bit more and cooperate and work together. I think we can do that. There's a whole lot we can do. It has nothing to do with politics, having good manners, being polite, being civil, being cooperative, being compassionate, working hard, all of that. Everybody should do it. I always say we need to be the people we want the children to be. Instead of talking about what we want someone else to do, we should all lead by example. So I'm going to try to be a person that is willing to listen and willing to learn. That's what I look for when I'm looking who I'm going to endorse for office or who I'm going to support. I'm looking for who's willing to listen and who's willing to learn.
Thank you. Our next question. If elected mayor, do you feel it is necessary to request a federal audit from the Office of Inspector General? Yes or no, and then why? And we could begin with Mrs. Brzezinski.
Well, in particular, I don't know about the federal authorities that might become involved, but I think that Plainfield definitely does need a forensic audit. We need to know not just the budget balances, but we need to know where the money's coming from, where it goes, how it has been lost, how it has been frittered away. 41,000 that allegedly disappeared from the tax offices is a big concern of mine. Yes, we need some outside authority to look into the Plainfield financial affairs and straighten them out. Thank you.
In '99, when I ran for the school board, if you recall, that's when all the school construction